Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So it must be a day that ends in Y because we're going to be looking at another round of controversy and bad news for Disney's live-action Snow White film. Now, of course, they've been facing a mountain of controversy for quite some time now, but as this film approaches its release in just about a week, we have another round of issues that they're facing that have left Disney canceling multiple major premieres of this movie, as well as limiting the media's access to Rachel Zegler. The star of this film is apparently being hidden in the background in order to prevent her from causing further controversy, and we'll also see how the media is now trying to spin a new narrative that it's not just Rachel Zegler's fault for all this controversy, it's equally on the shoulders of her co-star Gal Gadot, because I guess that's the route they're wanting to go. They're trying to exploit an international conflict to spin a new narrative, but we'll get into that in just a second. So we all know the story of the live-action Snow White, an absolutely abysmal reception so far. The original teaser trailer reaching over 1.5 million dislikes with only 100,000 likes on that. And you can see the budget is probably well over $300 million according to sources. It was already up to $269 million when Disney finally had to make some major changes back at the end of 2023. Obviously, there was a big delay with this film and also a lot of reshoots. So that 269 is probably much, much higher, and that's not even talking about the advertising for this. Obviously, they have a very big mountain to climb if they want to even break even on this film. On top of that, the trackings for this are looking increasingly bad. Originally, we saw some numbers around 70, but that's been lowered all the way down to 53 million. They expect 53 million box office on the opening of this film, which is an absolute disaster. That number is similar to the Marvels, by the way, if you want to know just how bad that is. Now, there's a lot of apathy with this film, right? Of course, there was the explosion of dislikes on some of the trailers, but as we've moved on and moved closer to the release of this film, the hype has died. It hasn't increased, it's actually gone down. If you look at all of the recent promotions on Disney's official YouTube account, everything has just received not just bad reception, but little reception. You can see this right here, Disney Snow White, Waiting on a Wish, the song they released to promote the movie. 54,000 views in 6 days on a channel with over 6 million subs. And that's not just, we're ignoring the fact that it has 1,700 likes and 6,800 dislikes. But this number is something that this video, for example, you're watching right now, will exceed in the first 24 hours it's live. Like, this is a very underwhelming number for a big production like this for Disney with only about a week until its release. And also, it appears that people aren't impressed with the latest trailers and sneak peeks released on Twitter. As you can see here, hold your jokes for just a second with this image. But you can see this promotion here, all the comments, extremely negative. And to make matters worse, in true Disney Twitter account fashion, they're hiding replies, just like they always do. The dumbest thing any of these accounts can do is hide replies. It shows how insecure they are about this film and makes them look petty. I mean, why are you hiding this? Someone simply saying, "Aw, hell no." Have this person saying, "No, I don't think I will." And then Disney, get tickets now, everyone. Are you threatening me? But there's more and more, you get the point. And given the low interaction on the tweet itself, it's embarrassing to see the quotes, like this one right here, getting 34,000 likes and more interaction than the actual promotion itself, saying they did not put her in Lord Farquaad's outfit. And that joke is one that's been made ever since the initial appearance of Rachel Zegler was made for this film. And here it is, wearing a seemingly similar outfit. Not intentional, obviously, but it just looks too close to home and people are clowning on that. So, what's going on here? Well, there's some more insider info that's been released as of today from some of the people responsible for making this film, where there is some real apathy. It's not just in the potential customers, it's within the studio making the film itself, where there's apparently a lot of tension, a lot of burnout, and people are saying, in quotes, they need to get this over with. Yes, those are the people making this film. That's their attitude. They need to get this over with. This is like a nightmare for them. They just want to move on. That's how bad things are, and that does not inspire any confidence whatsoever in this film. Now let's get to some of the cancellations and special rules for related events. So you can see here, Disney scales back Snow White Hollywood premiere amid Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot controversies. Now this is very interesting. They're trying to equate the two. We'll talk about that in just a second. But you can see right here, Disney is hosting a Hollywood premiere of Snow White on March 15th, but the studio won't be rolling out a robust red carpet like it usually does. So instead, coverage will be limited to photographers and a house crew. The studio did not comment for the story, and apparently there will not be dozens of media outlets like you'll usually see at a Disney premiere like this, where they interview the cast and the creatives. Nope, it's going to be a hand-selected, basically a picked crew of people that are going to obviously follow whatever Disney is saying. This basically tells me that they are very, very afraid right now. They are basically jumping in front of the microphone as Rachel Zegler goes anywhere. They don't want her to be in front of the media whatsoever. And currently, she's going around on an international tour, only seemingly going to places that are non-English speaking. So basically, they're doing everything in their power to keep the media away from her because she is a ticking time bomb. Anything she says can cause more controversy for this film, and we've seen it happen multiple times. And also for your own knowledge, the last time Disney ever had these sorts of conditions on a Hollywood premiere, it was for The Flash. And that was when Ezra Miller was facing a multitude of accusations over alleged crimes. So that's to give you a comparison point of just how bad Disney wants to hide their star from the media. But it gets worse. Disney has also canceled the United Kingdom Snow White premiere, and according to that, amid backlash and fears of negative Rachel Zegler press. Yes, that is not too surprising, but it is kind of surprising to see the UK, because that's a potentially big market for Disney. And you can see Disney live action Snow White is shaping up to be one of the studio's most troubled releases in recent memory, and now a major red flag has appeared. The company has canceled its planned Snow White UK premiere, reportedly due to concerns over backlash and controversy. Instead of a star-studded event in London, Disney will hold a small number of lightly controlled press events, an unusual move for a film with a $200 million plus budget and massive marketing campaign. Yes, when you see Disney doing everything in their power to scale back events like this leading up to the release of this film, that tells you everything you need to know about the confidence they have in this film. They're basically saying we're going to save our money and focus that on promoting something that's actually got a chance to succeed, because even if we did try to juice up this film a bit, Rachel Zegler has to get in front of the mic and she might cause even more damage. Now, there was an interesting set of events that happened about a week ago. We had the Oscars, right? In case you don't know what the Oscars is, it's a giant circle jerk for Hollywood. You know, they go around, they preach about various forms of activism, pat each other on the back, and call it a day, right? And there was a very awkward scene during the presentation of a award. We had Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot go on stage together, and you can see there was a lot of awkward energy here. And basically, people are starting to theorize, besides the fact that Rachel Zegler walks like she just got a new pair of legs, that there might be some tension between the two actresses, because they didn't look at each other not a single time during this entire display, which is very odd to see. It seems like they're just forced to be together and they're forced to go out there. Now, people are starting to speculate as to why there's so much tension. Well, I think there's a pretty obvious common denominator here, and that has to do with political views. We have seen Rachel Zegler on multiple occasions say things like "Free Palestine." Okay, you can see this was a post made back in August of last year, where she added, and always remember "Free Palestine," underneath a tweet talking about the trailer for Snow White. So in a sense, adding this moniker, this message, onto something that is tangibly related to the Snow White film, which also awkwardly, she's talking about the amount of views the trailer got, but, you know, the dislike bombing was conveniently ignored. And also, I also find it funny that she also mentions the Romeo and Juliet set that she's working on while also trying to promote the film she's currently working on. It's like talking about your next job while you're basically waiting for your 2 weeks notice at your current one. It's very awkward. But yeah, you have this opinion, this viewpoint from Rachel Zegler, and you compare that to Gal Gadot. I keep wanting to say Gal Gadot. All of these YouTubers, they gaslit me into thinking that's how you pronounce it. It's been going on for months and months. Turns out it's Gal Gadot, not Gal Gadot. But anyways, you can see she made an address, a keynote address, at the ADL's 2025 Never Is Now Summit on anti-Semitism and hate. And this is not anything new for her. She's starting to become more outspoken about this stuff. She's from Israel, I believe. And in this keynote speech, she basically acknowledged that she was there because she has spoken out against people supporting Hamas, for example, and also the attacks on Jewish people over this conflict. But all you really need to know about this is you have people who are backing two completely different parties here that obviously are at odds. And if social media's reaction to that sort of thing gives you an indication, there's obviously a lot of tension between the two over this whole thing. Like, I think it's pretty obvious when you have one side supporting Palestine, the other supporting Israel, there's going to be some tension here. But this is where it gets interesting. The press, the mainstream media, is trying to spin this whole narrative into something else. They're trying to say this potential tension over this set of beliefs here from these two actresses is what's causing all of the issues. This is what's causing the cancellation of these premieres. You can see an article here from page 6 saying Disney scales back Snow White premiere following Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot backlash. So they are basically directly blaming, putting equal blame on Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot for this backlash, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Of course, there might be some tension here, and no one's, I guess, free from any sort of negative press being spun here. But to think Rachel Zegler's on the same level as Gal Gadot, that is absolutely insane. Let's just remind ourselves, just for a couple seconds, how this all kicked off. And this is just a tiny snippet of the overall terrible press tour Rachel Zegler has provided for this film for years now.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different, and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince, or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story, just because like we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024 all of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But it's
so many great quotes. They're burned into my memory at this point. But that was the tip of the iceberg, and many other negative quotes she made to the press. Then you had this situation following the election results in the United States. She made a series of Instagram stories that were swiftly deleted because she was saying many things, including she wanted Trump supporters to never know another moment of peace in their life, which is a great PR strategy. If you're with Disney, you want to alienate over half of the United States. Great strategy by Rachel Zegler. Like I said, she would apologize for that. She would also turn around and apologize recently, saying the backlash against the film wasn't due to sexism or other things she's claimed in the past. Instead, it's about the passion of these fans, that they're just really passionate about all of this, and that's why there was a misunderstanding, when in reality, she's trying her best, and probably under the pressure of Disney, to help the PR of herself and the film as much as they can as we head into the final week or so before the official release. And also, people forget the Dwarf controversy. This one's often overlooked because it took place a couple years ago, but this was the original image released for these 7 dwarfs. As you can see, these 7 DEI hires. This was an absolute embarrassment. Number one, a lot of the outrage for this had to do with the selection here, because not only does it look janky, but people said, why aren't you hiring actors with dwarfism for this role. If it's going to be a live action version, not CGI, live action dwarfs, hire actors with dwarfism. It's a great opportunity for them. That makes sense. Unfortunately, and ironically, Peter Dinklage, an actor with dwarfism, you might recognize him as Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones and other great roles. He's a great actor, but he came out with an absolute stinker saying that it was backwards for Disney to make a remake of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and to use actors in any sort of live action form. And guess what? Disney, through its representatives, said directly, this is why they made a change. This influenced their decision, and we all know how this ended. They went with CGI, and you got this absolute slop festival. Like, terrible, terrible CGI. And again, I guess we helped out the actors with dwarfism by taking away their roles. Yay, everyone give this guy a big round of applause. What a great decision. But yeah, as you can see, that sort of tension between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot over this international conflict is now being used to spin a new narrative that takes some of the heat away from Rachel Zegler and places an equal amount on Gal Gadot, and that's completely ridiculous. We all know this is the result mainly of years of negative PR surrounding everyone but Gal Gadot up until recently, and this is something that really they have no one to blame but themselves in this case. The live-action Snow White continues to spiral into depths we never thought possible. They're going to have to make a substantial amount of money to get their money back on this, and I don't think they will. Maybe I'll be surprised by the number of normies and families who are not aware of all the backlash who are going to still show up for this film just because it's a live-action Snow White film or just because it's a Disney film. But we'll have to wait and see. Got about a week and a half until the release, and when it does, we're definitely going to get some very interesting numbers, and I will be here to share them with you guys. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.